you've struggled with some issues with bulimia and kind of body image and steroids and things like that. And I was wondering if you could talk on that, because a lot of men, I think, suffer from these things, and yet we don't talk about it very much.
It's a great shame, really, because I've learned from my own experiences the hard way that talking about things is the best way, or certainly one of the best way to overcome whatever issues you have in life, whether it's your sexuality, in my case, marital relationship problems, work problems, money problems, whatever those worries are. Until you accept it and talk about it, it's going to be very difficult for you to deal with it and to overcome it. And that's why I think unfortunately, a lot of young men in particular, and a lot of older men as well in that sort of age bracket, the sort of 30s, 40s, take their own lives because they get to a dark place where they see no other way out, and because they feel it's a sense of weakness to talk about it. And it's not. To talk about something is a sign of great strength, really. And in my sort of late teens, when I was about 18, 19, I started realizing I was a bit different to the person that I'd been brought up to be. I was brought up by my mum and dad. I was the only child, brought up in a small community, everybody close-knit, all your family living around you. You brought up, you go to school, go to Sunday school, went to chapel, you get a girlfriend, you get married, you get kids, you become grandparents, and that's the world evolves. And I don't see nothing wrong with that upbringing, and I wouldn't want my upbringing to be any different. But at 19 years of age, I started realizing something not right here. I felt there's something wrong here. I was finding myself attracted to men, and this was not what was supposed to happen. This is not what I was brought up and told that life would be like. And I was finding it very difficult because it was something totally alien to me. I'd never met a gay person, didn't know what a gay person looked like. The only gay person I could relate to were some of the very camp characters that were on the television sitcoms, mostly back in that time. And when you're watching these programs and thinking, well, that's what people say a gay person is, that's not me. I don't look like that. I don't behave like that. And there's nothing wrong with the way they behave, but that's not me. So I found it very difficult, something very alien, and I was fighting against it for years, and it was getting me down. It was making me depressed. I was worried what people are going to say if they find out, because there was nobody out that time, and used to hear the general talk when people used to mention gay people. It wasn't spoken about in a very nice way, and it used to make me really sort of feel sick, when I heard the word gay used, and people say, "Oh, don't speak to him, he's gay, he's a puff," and stuff like this, and these were some people that I knew. Some of my friends were speaking like this, at that time, because it was a different era back then. Yeah. And that was making me feel really sick in the stomach, and worrying. And I was quite obese at the time. I was about 16.5 stone. I would probably be something like maybe 115, 118, 120 kilos, I think. I was quite heavy, overweight. And so dealing with my sexuality, living a lie, I made myself ill to lose weight. I became bulimic. And then after becoming bulimic and going from something like 120, 25 kilos, whatever it was, kgs, I lost weight and came down to 11.5 stone, something like 65 kgs or whatever it was, 60 kgs. I was really thin, really pale, not looking well, not feeling well. So I started going to the gym. And then in the gym, I started taking steroids to sort of put some muscle on, to think that I would look better, and maybe men would find me attractive if I looked more muscular and looked better. And all of a sudden, by the time I was 24, 25 years of age, I was suffering from mental health issues, very depressed, in a very, very dark place, fighting against my sexuality, becoming somebody I didn't want to be, bulimic, eating food and then making myself sick afterwards. Yeah. And then hooked on steroids, and one of the side effects of steroids is, it can make you even more depressed than you are, amongst the other side effects it has. And I was in a very, very bad place, and I thought, well, I'd read somewhere or heard somewhere somebody say something, or read somewhere that you could get chemically castrated, which then would take away your sexual urges. Right. And I thought that me being gay was a sexual urge and nothing else. So I went to the doctor and I asked, look, I think I'm gay. I want to be chemically castrated because I don't want to be gay. And the doctor told me, look, no, it doesn't work like that, Nigel. He said, you being gay is who you are. It's not because of a sexual urge.
And this was a Welsh doctor was able to give
this is a Welsh doctor,
that common sense.
Yeah, my local doctor that I went to, yeah. And then, sort of when I left the doctor, I was actually feeling worse because I thought this was an avenue out for me now to get chemically castrated, but that avenue was taken away from me. And then I thought, well, over the next sort of 8 months, 12 months, I got deeper and deeper into a state of depression. And I thought there's only one way out now. There's only one cure, if you like, for what I felt at the time I needed. Wrongly at the time, but I felt there's only one way out, and that is to end my life. And I did something one night which I would regret for the rest of my life. It's something that I now have to live with for the rest of my life. I left a note from my mum and dad and said that I didn't tell them why. I just left a note and said, look, I can't carry on living anymore. I'm sorry, and just said goodbye. And I'll never ever forgive myself, for what I put my mum and dad through that night when they must have woken up in the morning and read that note and must have thought they're never going to see their only child ever again. I'll never ever forgive myself for that. I've got to live with that for the rest of my life. And
so you don't want to forgive yourself. You'll never forgive yourself for what you did to your parents.
No, I'll never forgive myself for what I put them through.
Yeah.
Which must have been absolute hell for them. And I left the house with a couple of boxes of paracetamols and a bottle of whiskey. And as I used to work on the farm, I had a loaded shotgun in the house. Well, a shotgun, it wasn't. I loaded it and I left the house. And I walked around the small village of Mynydd Cerrig where I was brought up, seeing everything for the last time, really, just looking at everything and pretty much saying goodbye to everything and everybody in my own way. And I left a note then for my... I took the paracetamols and sort of on top of this mountain looking down, at where I was living and as I was brought up. And what actually I took what I actually took to take my own life actually saved me in the end, because I overdosed on the paracetamols and slipped into a coma. Because if that hadn't happened, there's no doubt I would have pulled the trigger, because I was intent on doing that. And my mum and dad obviously phoned the police, and then people came out looking for me, and the police helicopter came searching, and they found me, but they couldn't come anywhere near me because all they could see was me lying there with a shotgun on my chest pointing to underneath my chin. So they knew I was still alive, but they didn't know if I was conscious or not, and if they were going to come any near me, what I was going to do with the gun, not to myself, but to them as well. And
so you were serious about this.
Yeah, there is. I honestly thought that this is the way out, and there's no coming back from this. But I slipped into that coma and got airlifted to hospital and spent a few days in intensive care. And when I came round, the doctor told me, look, he said, another 20 minutes, Nigel, and we wouldn't have been able to save you. You're a very, very lucky young man. And I was very, very, very lucky. I had a second chance. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't get those second chances, but I did. And my mum and dad came to see me, and family and friends, and when they all left, then my mum came back after everybody left, and she said to me, look, she said, I don't know why you've done it, but if you ever do anything like that again, then you take me and your dad with you, because we don't want to carry on our life without you. You mean the world to us. And my mum left, and I sat up in bed,
it's a heavy thing to hear from your mom.
It is, that really was what changed my life. That moment,
that
because
statement.
I sat up in bed and I cried. I cried like a baby in bed for hours, I think. And I said to myself, those words that my mum said, I've got to grow up here. I've got to accept who I am. This is who I am.
Yeah.
And that's when the moment my life changed, in accepting who I was. And that, I think, is the biggest challenge that anybody comes across in their life. In my case, it was accepting my sexuality. You know, refereeing the World Cup final a year and a half ago in Twickenham between Australia and New Zealand, you know, in front of 85,000 people and millions of people watching at home, as I said earlier, with that massive pressure on you, was nothing compared to having to accept who I was and what I'd gone through my life then. And until you accept that there is something a matter, something that's making you feel down, something that's causing the mental health issues in your mind, whatever it is, sexuality in my case, dealing with it, fighting against it, not accepting it. In other people's case, it could be, you know, relationship problems, money problems, school problems, you know, worrying about exams as a teenager, whatever they are. Until you accept there is something that you need to address in your life, then you're not going to get out of that. You're not going to be able to do something about it. I accepted now that who I was. So I was then able to move on to the next stage. And that was difficult. You know, the next 5 or 6, 7 years until I actually came out was still difficult. I was still living a lie, not telling anybody. And here I was, being brought up by my mum and dad, to be honest, to respect people, to say your please and thank yous, you know, honesty and integrity. And here I was lying to the people that mattered more to me than anything in the world. And that was difficult, but it wasn't as difficult as dealing with a sexuality and dealing with accepting who I was.
Continue watching this fascinating conversation for free by clicking on the link below to visit our website, learn from the best minds in the world, and connect with a community of passionate people building the best versions of themselves. Just click on the link below, and I'll see you on the inside.